Hi, I'm Rake.
And I'm Iggy Cooper.
And we're going to tell you about the effects of different magnitude of each earthquake.
From a magnitude of 0 to the magnitude of 10.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 0, its distance is 0 kilometers, or 0 miles away. With the Macaulay intensity of 0, we couldn't feel it at all, and the seismographs would not be able to detect it at all, so nothing happens to everyone. The amplitude is 1,000th of a meter. A magnitude 0 earthquake would have about the same energy as 63,095 joules. It was equivalent to 15 grams of TNT.
Every magnitude is 10 times more powerful. If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 1, its distance is 12.5 kilometers, or 7 miles away. We can't feel it at all. Only seismographs detect it, but no objects are shaking during that point. With a Richter scale magnitude of 1, and with a Macaulay intensity of 1 to 2, it would be a micro-earthquake that you couldn't feel. People would not feel any of the Earth's movements at all. The strength is instrumental, meaning it was very weak. It can be continuous. The amplitude is 3/4 of a meter. A magnitude 1 earthquake would have about the same energy as 1,995,262 joules. It was equivalent to 476 grams of TNT. That's the same vibration as a small construction site blast, or a bomb that was used in World War II.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 2, its distance is 25 kilometers, or 15 miles away. There is no damage to buildings at all. At indoors, you notice that hanging object starts to swing. With a Macaulay intensity of 2 to 3, it would be a very minor earthquake that it can be recorded. The strength is weak. People may notice any movement if they are at rest and on the upper floors of tall buildings. A few people may feel it if they're very sensitive. There are 1 million earthquakes per year. The amplitude is 10 septillionth of a meter. A magnitude 2 earthquake would have about the same energy as 63,095,734 joules. It was equivalent to 15,080 of TNT. That's the same vibration as a large bomb that was used in World War II.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 3, its distance is 37.5 kilometers, or 23 miles away. Only a few people felt it, and the objects starts to shake, and rattling sounds will occur. With a Richter scale magnitude of 3, and with a Macaulay intensity of 3 to 4, it would be a minor earthquake that you can feel, but rarely causes damage, or not. The strength is slight. People at indoors feels movement, but people at outdoors may not. Standing motor cars can rock slightly. There are about 100,000 earthquakes per year. The amplitude is 3 undecillionth of a meter. A magnitude 3 earthquake would have about the same energy as 1,995,262,315 joules. It was equivalent to 476,879 grams of TNT. That's the same vibration as the truck passing by.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 4, its distance is 50 kilometers, or 31 miles away. Many people feel the magnitude of 4, but the objects are displaced. Windows could eventually break. With a Richter scale magnitude of 4, and with a Macaulay intensity of 4 to 5, it would be a light earthquake that would cause noticeable shaking of items, and significant damage is unlikely. The strength is moderate to rather strong. Noticeable shaking of indoor objects and rattling noises. It can generally cause none to minimal damage, but moderate to significant damage is very unlikely. Some objects may fall off shelves or be knocked over. Parked cars will be rocked. At night, some people are awake. There are 10,000 earthquakes per year. The amplitude is 100 quatortesillionth of a meter. A magnitude 4 earthquake would have about the same energy as 63,095,734,450 joules. It was equivalent to 15 grams of TNT. That's the same vibration of one small atomic bomb.
It's tons, not grams.
Oops. Sorry. Moving on.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 5, its distance is 62.5 kilometers, or 38 miles away. Heavy furniture moved, but it can have very small damages to weak buildings. With a Richter scale magnitude of 5, and with a Mercalli intensity of 6 to 7, it would be a moderate earthquake that can cause significant damage to poorly constructed buildings over small regions. The strength is strong. Doors may open, or close, but sleeping people can be awake. Large bells will ring, and chunks of plaster will fall down. Books may fall off. Almost everyone will feel the movement outside. There are 1,000 earthquakes per year. The amplitude is 316 vigentillionth of a meter. A magnitude 5 earthquake would have about the same energy as 1,995,262,315,000 joules. It was equivalent to 476 tons of TNT. That's the same vibration as a Nagasaki atomic bomb that was dropped on August 6, 1945.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 6, its distance is 75 kilometers, or 46 miles away. Heavy furniture overturned, but there could be damage to buildings, but not very strong buildings. Objects will break, hanging objects will fall down, pipes will be broken, and the ceiling starts to crumble in some buildings. With a Richter scale magnitude of 6, and with a Mercalli intensity of 7 to 8, it would be a strong earthquake that can be destructive up to a 100-mile area. The strength is very strong. Many people will be alarmed. People may start to having difficulties walking and steering vehicles, but at most, poorly constructed buildings might have severe damage. Everyone feels the movement, but walls may crack in houses. Many people will be frightened and run outdoors. Windows, dishes, and glassware are broken. Books may fall off shelves. Plaster will fall off, and people run outdoors. Many people woken up. There are 100 earthquakes per year. The amplitude is 1 trivigentillionth of a meter, a magnitude 6.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 7, its distance is 87.5 kilometers, or 54 miles away. Wires and pipe systems destroyed, but there could be heavily damages to many buildings. With a Richter scale magnitude of 7, and with a Mercalli intensity of 8 to 9, it would be a major earthquake that can cause serious damage over larger areas. Buildings will be damaged in populated areas, but earthquake-resistant structures survive with slight to moderate damage. The strength is destructive. It was felt in wider areas for up to hundreds of kilometers from the epicenter, but the strength of shaking is severe to violent in the epicenter. People might lose control of standing, or steering vehicles, and they're forced to crawl. Cars shake at some point, but chimneys can fall from the roof, and factory stacks, and columns, and monuments, and walls, and can be broken. Tall structures might fall. Some buildings might have partially or completely collapse or receive severe damage. Well-designed structures are likely to receive damage. They felt across great distances with major damage mostly limited to 250 kilometers from the epicenter. There are 10 earthquakes per year. The amplitude is 3 septenvigentillionth of a meter. A magnitude 7 earthquake would have about the same energy as 1,995,262,364,969,000 joules. It was equivalent to 476,879 tons of TNT. That's the same vibration as a largest thermonuclear weapon, or an earthquake that happened in Indonesia on 2009, or an earthquake that happened in Haiti on 2010.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 8, its distance is 100 kilometers, or 62 miles away. Cars and structures will fly around, but most buildings destroyed. With a Richter scale magnitude of 8, and with a Mercalli intensity of 9 to 10, it would be a great earthquake that can serious damage over areas several hundred miles across. Everyone is having a general panic. The strength is violent to intense. Some underground pipes are broken. Most buildings and their foundations will likely be destroyed, and so are the bridges. Dams will be seriously damaged, but rails could bend. Fire may appear in some buildings. There is major damage to buildings, and structures are likely to be destroyed. It will cause moderate to heavy damage to sturdy or earthquake-resistant buildings, but there could be damage in large areas, and it can be felt in extremely large regions. There are about 1 earthquake per year. The amplitude is 100 trillionth of a meter. A magnitude 8 earthquake would have about the same energy as 63,95,734,448,020,000 joules. It was equivalent to 15,080,242 tons of TNT. That's the same vibration as an earthquake that happened in Shaanxi, China on 1556, or an earthquake that happened in San Juan, Puerto Rico on 1894, or an earthquake that happened in San Francisco, California on 1906, or an earthquake that happened in Queen Charlotte, British Columbia, Canada on 1949, or an earthquake that happened in Anchorage, Alaska on 1964, or an earthquake that happened in Mexico City, Mexico on 1985, or an earthquake that happened in Chincha, Peru on 2001, or an earthquake that happened in Sichuan, China on 2008.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 9, its distance is 112.5 kilometers, or 69 miles away. Almost everything will be completely destroyed, causing a near total destruction, and trees would have fallen down. With a Richter scale magnitude of 9, and with a Mercalli intensity of 11, it would be a great earthquake that can be devastating over areas several hundred miles across. The strength is extreme. Almost all of the buildings may be having severe damage or collapse to all buildings, but there is heavy damage and shaking extends to distant locations. There can be permanent changes in ground topography. Bridges, and most underground pipelines are destroyed, but rails could bend gently. Only a few structures remain. Cracks could appear on the ground. There are about 1 earthquake every 10 years. The amplitude is 316 quachu or trillionth of a meter. A magnitude 9 earthquake would have about the same energy as 1,905,262,314,968,890,000 joules. It was equivalent to 476,879,138 of TNT. That's the same vibration as an earthquake that happened in Lisbon, Portugal on 1755, or an earthquake that happened in Kamchatka, Russia on 1952, or an earthquake and a tsunami that happened in Tohoku that was off the coast east of Japan on 2011.
If an earthquake that has a magnitude of 10, its distance is 125 kilometers, or 77 miles away. With a Richter scale magnitude of 10, and with a Mercalli intensity of 12, it would be a massive earthquake that has never been recorded in human history. This is an extremely rare event. No earthquakes have been recorded in human history at the 10 or greater level on the Richter scale. The strength is cataclysmic. Everything would have been destroyed during a magnitude 10 earthquake. All buildings will be collapsed, causing to be in total destruction. Objects will be thrown into the air, but large amounts of rock move position, and the routes of rivers have been changed. The amplitude is 10 octotrillionth of a meter. A magnitude 10 earthquake would have about the same energy as 63,95,734,448,090,500,000 joules. It was equivalent to 15,80,242,460 tons of TNT. That's the same vibration as a 15-mile-wide asteroid wolf crashed onto the ground.
That was all of the different earthquake effects on each magnitude from 0 to 10.